Hi, everyone. My name is Himaja. I am one of your select board members for the town of Acton. Today, I will be giving you a presentation on Article 11, which is to amend the general bylaws for the Board of Trustees of the West Acton Citizens Library. I'll go ahead and share my screen and do want to caveat that I know that this is a hot button issue, and so I'm going to try to give you the most accurate, comprehensive information that I can to really break down the reasoning for why this article is being proposed, and also happy to answer any questions offline as we move very fast towards town meeting. So I will go ahead and share my screen. So as I mentioned, this article is being proposed. The motion is that the town amend the general bylaws of the town by adding a new chapter titled Board of Trustees of the West Acton Citizens Library to read as follows in the article, but we'll break down what the article actually entails, and that non-substantive changes in the numbering and heading of this bylaw be permitted in order that it be in compliance with the format of the general bylaws or take any other action relative thereto. So let's dive in. This act would essentially clarify the scope of the roles and responsibilities of the West Acton Citizens Library trustees. This was a board established by the 1982 annual town meeting. And the purpose of this is because the 1982 town warrant is a little vague in how it allocates what the roles and responsibilities of the trustees are, because there was little consensus as to what these roles and responsibilities entailed. This article seeks to clarify that and seeks to provide a very clear understanding for all of us trustees, staff, people on the select board, people in town, a very clear understanding of what the roles and responsibilities of our trustees entail. To break it down, and you can read the full language of the article for more details, trustees are responsible for the following: governing the fundraising and expenditures of the gift fund with staff input. Staff input is optional, encouraged, but it's the trustees' fundamental responsibility, and they have oversight, full oversight of the funding and expenditures of that gift fund. We also want to note that trustees are responsible for, as outlined in the article, establishing strategic planning goals for the library. This really builds off of what historically have been the roles that trustees of citizens have taken on, really making sure that the programming of the library, making sure that the aesthetic of the library, all of these things feed into making sure that this citizens library, which we all love, really meets what its potential is as a focal cultural and historic landmark of this town, and providing crucial library services for the people of West Acton, but really for everyone in town. So really want to emphasize that as a fundamental role and responsibility of the trustees is establishing that strategic planning goals and working with staff to make sure that we are meeting those goals. And then the third is to ensure the best interests of the Citizens Library. I mentioned briefly before, as a focal cultural and historic landmark of the town. And I really want to emphasize this because I think all of us can agree that the Citizens Library is a really incredible focal point of the town. I went to Gates for my elementary way back in the day, and I always loved going to the Citizens Library book fundraising and other activities. And I didn't even go as often. I know many of my other friends who went much more often to the Citizens Library. And just had such a close connection with that community, with that environment, with the building and the staff. And it's in all of our best interests to make sure that the library keeps that integrity, keeps that environment, and everything that the town is doing, that trustees are doing, that the select board is doing, that residents are doing, is all in the best interests of keeping this library as preserved in its incredibleness as possible. So to break down the timeline of events that have really brought us here today, it really has been a year-long effort. Time flies, but really wanted to emphasize that we started back in July of 2022. The town manager worked with library staff and trustees to put together a library transition plan. And this was in a goal to improve library services by strengthening operational and leadership effectiveness. For people who may have not followed the work of the libraries during COVID, I actually entered my term as a select board like at peak of pandemic. Well, we had multiple peaks of the pandemic, but during one of the heavy peaks of the pandemic. And it was just so inspiring, but also heartbreaking to see so many of our staff just sacrifice so much to keep the libraries running. They were working with incredibly difficult situations. They had people being sick and then having to find alternative staffing. They had to cater to new hours, especially when testing was happening, making sure that people were staying masked when mask mandates were there, making sure people had access to library information. On top of that, they were dealing with all the other things that we see with living in New England and the seasonality, having to help, make sure the library stayed a safe environment for people who had lost power during winter storms and things like that. And so seeing all of this in the background, I've been the select board liaison for both the Memorial Library and Citizens Library for the past 2 years, and just seeing how much staff have put into making sure this library and our libraries as a collective stay running and stay dedicated to providing services for this town was absolutely eye-opening in so many ways. And so this library plan was really put in place to make sure that we were moving forward with strengthening our operational and leadership structures, making sure that we were all working together to provide a clear plan for our staff to make sure they felt like they were being supported and that they were able in turn to then support our residents. In August of 2022, we had our new trustee chair officially appointed. In December of 2022, we had our new Citizens Library manager that was hired. In January 2023, we had resignations of 2 of our trustee members from Citizens. Citizens has a 3-board trustee or a 3-member board of trustees. So we lost quorum. And then in March of 2023, 2 months after, we wanted to give enough time for proper outreach to the community, letting them know of these vacancies, we appointed 2 new trustees and thus reached quorum. From March to April, our citizens trustees have been very busy. They have been meeting diligently pretty much almost every week and have had 5 meetings in total to make sure that adequate time and effort was being put into understanding this article being set forth, and the select board has also been really supportive. We had a joint select board citizens trustee meeting on April 6th, where all 5 members of the select board showed up to work collaboratively over hours and finalize language for our warrant article for this town meeting. So even though it has felt like an expedited timeline, it has incorporated feedback from the previous trustee members, from our new trustee members. We've had select board engagement as well. One of our select board members is a former trustee member. So we've really made sure to prepare for you something that was really well informed, not only legally, but also something that was informed with adequate community input to the best degree that we could in time for this town meeting. So that's the summary that I wanted to present to you, but I wanted to leave this slide as our last slide. The Citizens Library, as I mentioned, is just such a huge focal point for our town. It's been so incredible to hear the stories of just the memories people have fostered being part of this library. And it's been an incredible honor to serve as a select board liaison for this library for the past 2 years. It's been such an honor, and again, happy to answer any questions as we gear up to town meeting. And we're hoping this article helps to provide everyone the support, the clarity that we need to make sure we're all moving forward together to protect this library that we love. Thank you.